Hello and welcome to Hard Copy from our channel's television studios in Abuja. I'm Kayla Megwa. Security takes our focus tonight. The return of the Kebbi schoolgirls and the Eruku church worshippers, while considered good news, raised the conversation about whether these kidnapped victims were rescued, returned, or ransomed. Meanwhile, some kidnappings are still happening, even here in the nation's capital, as the president orders the withdrawal of police protecting VIPs, demanding more recruitment into the police force, approving again the nationwide upgrade of police training facilities, authorizing the police to use various National Youth Service Corps camps as training depots, the cordoning off of forests in parts of the country, and declaring a, quote, a nationwide security emergency, end quote. Social media is flooded with videos of terrorists boasting of their exploits, declaring the government is negotiating with them for the rescue of kidnapped Nigerians, showing off money they've gotten as ransom for rescued victims. They taunt us on TikTok and we're left bewildered. Do we negotiate with terrorists in Nigeria? The president's spokesperson, Bayo Ononuga, says the security agencies know where the terrorists are, so why aren't they being killed? Is this something we don't understand? These state governments that are negotiating with terrorists, are they just kicking the can down the road until they get out of office and the next state governor starts from scratch? What kind of value have we gotten from the so-called repentant terrorists that have been reintegrated into our society? Where are we with negotiations with the United States to end this insurgency and restore our safety as the Nigerian people? My guest tonight is a security expert, the CEO of Beacon Security. He does a lot of updates on the security situation in this country and has given advice when he can. In this interview, we'll be trying to get what kind of advice we need to move forward from where we are. What are the mistakes being made and what is the way forward, especially at the grassroots level? Joining us tonight, Dr. Kabiru Adamu. Dr. Kabiru Adamu, welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you, Kayla. My pleasure to be here.
The last time we spoke, I asked you what the biggest threat to Nigeria's security was, and you said it was politicians. I didn't know what to make of it then, but I think I'm beginning to believe you now. What do you make of all that's going on in our country right now? Is this the political class playing a game that might cost them more than they know?
It most likely what's going on. The political class, unfortunately, not able to arrive at some form of national consensus, and so we're seeing a power dispute competition that is manifesting in different forms, including in insecurity. Unfortunately, one of the greatest challenges is the weaponization of insecurity, where in some instances you see the political class using insecurity to achieve political interest. And then, of course, the inability of the political class itself to reach some form of consensus that would allow us as Nigerians to address the security challenges. No doubt, both local politics and then, of course, geopolitics is impacting Nigeria's security in huge ways.
You don't believe that there's a Christian genocide going on in this country, do you?
It's not what I believe, but it's what the data says. Fortunately, by virtue of what I do not have the luxury of sentiments. I have over time tried to put sentiments aside in what I do.
Dr. Kabiru, isn't it possible that Christian genocide is just one of the many heads in this hydra-headed serpent that we're dealing with? Yes, I know it would be simplistic for us to put all of Nigeria's insecurity and the killings of Nigerians as a Christian genocide. Yeah, everyone knows that. But isn't there some element of it inside of this complicated situation? Especially in places like Benue, in the Plateau, in Kaduna, in all those kinds of places.
So the first thing is to define genocide. What is genocide legally? I'm not being sentimental now. Pick genocide and define it legally. I don't know if there are other definitions of genocide that are outside the legal definition. Targeted attack at a group of people with the intention of exterminating them. That's, I think, the most simplistic definition of genocide. Mm-hmm. And if we use that definition, it would be difficult for me to conclude that there is Christian genocide. If they are a group that is specifically intentional in exterminating Christians in Nigeria, I don't think so. In my conversations over this subject, it's been mentioned to me that there are Muslim groups whose intention is to target and kill Christians. But then the reality is that those same Muslim groups also attack and kill Muslims. So their objective is not to exterminate Christians. If they meet Christians, yes, they will kill Christians. If they meet Muslims who do not agree with their ideology, they would also kill those Muslims. So again, these are some of the reasons why I do not believe there is Christian genocide. I know Christians are being targeted. I would never deny that. I know Muslims are being targeted. I would never deny that. But then using that legal definition of genocide, no. And then I think for us, especially for me, the danger, arises when we allow that terminology to be used. It opens us to external intervention. So those who are using that terminology know what they're trying to achieve. In international law, another country can intervene in the domestic matters of another country if there is genocide. And so if we agree, even when I've hopefully convinced you that there is no genocide, but if for political convenience we agree there is genocide, we are more or less agreeing that another country can intervene in our domestic politics.
For the communities in places like Plateau and Benue, for the communities that have been killed consistently over the years, they don't care if the help comes from the Shah of Iran or if it comes from the Saudi government or from Donald Trump. They've gotten to a point where they just need help. Any kind of intervention will do. If you tell them, oh, look, it's a little dicey, it's not for free, they're like, what am I living that is okay right now? What existence do I have?
I agree with you totally. But you see, the challenge with that theory is if the person who had said he was going to help had not been selective in his description and has just said, let the killings in Nigeria end, a significant number of Nigerians would have supported him more than where we are at the moment. For the simple reason that by isolating Benue and Plateau, you went, so imagine a situation where you had a categorization of states, and I do have that categorization in terms of the fatality rates. Let me even give you in clear terms. We're in November now. By my record, the record of the firm that I founded and manage, 10,000 Nigerians have been killed, unfortunately, from January to the date that we are in November, right now. Now, out of those 10,000, if you list the state by the level of fatalities, Benue comes at number 5, and then Plateau comes at number 7. So what happens to the other states that are number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4? They've not been mentioned. So how do you expect them to feel when clearly, for some reasons, you've decided to ignore them and you are now focusing on Benue and on Plateau? So this is the challenge with...
Yeah, but nobody ignored them. They should have screamed. At least that's what the Plateau State leader said. Screaming. They said they should have shouted. We shouted when we were killed. Why didn't you shout?
Screaming. They are screaming. Even as of today, if you go to Katsina, if you go to Zamfara, if you go to Borno, which are the states that come tops before Benue and Plateau, they are on a daily basis screaming. They have blocked the road. In fact, one of the major concerns that has been muzzled by the media is the fact that under the former president, Buhari, when he visited his home state, Katsina, they protested in light of the deteriorating security in that state. And on a daily basis, these people come out. But for some odd reasons, and maybe because of the binary obsession of the media over religion and identity, issues are not reported as much as they are reported in Benue and Plateau State. And I think that is the worry. We need to report those developments more in those locations so that their voices are also heard. But they are protesting.
Let me ask you point blank, are we negotiating with terrorists in Nigeria?
Yes, sadly we are. As at this November, I counted 18 local governments in Katsina state alone that have entered peace pacts with bandits, gunmen who are illegal. Now we have one, and there is a conversation regarding the possibility of a second local government joining. So all in all, we're looking at about 19 local governments formally entering peace pacts. We've also documented other wards, villages who have entered informal peace pacts with these bandits. So clearly, we have legitimized criminality. We have let go of an element of our sovereignty to these bad guys. And I think the most annoying part or disturbing part is the fact that it is done under the full glare and witness of some federal security agencies. In certain instances, the military would be the ones who would allow these bandits access into the locations. They will be in the locations where these bandits are signing this peace pact. In some instances, the police will be there, the civil defense will be there. So it's going to be very difficult for someone to convince me that this is not being done with the knowledge of the federal government and in the knowledge of the state government. Of course, the local government chairmen are involved. And I think, Keller, the most disturbing thing is even the agreement that is signed. The contents of the agreement are extremely disturbing. On the one hand, from the side of the state, what the state is demanding from these armed men is that they should stop attacking. It ends there. There is no demand about them laying down their weapons. There is no demand about them not attacking neighboring locations. It's specific to the particular location where this peace pact is signed. On the side of the armed men, the bandits, their request is even more ridiculous. They are asking for medical facilities, they are asking for educational institutions, and they are asking for access to the market. As ridiculous as it sounds, this is what they say is the reason behind the continuation of the lawlessness that we're seeing.
But there's a lot of taunting of the Nigerian people by terrorists going on social media right now, and we're bewildered by it, wondering, is it now, what does this all mean? If someone has the audacity to use his phone to do a TikTok, if the police wanted to find me, no matter where I hide, they know how to get me. If someone is making TikTok videos, is there some reason why they are not being arrested, why they are not being killed? We heard the president's spokesperson talking about how security agents know where these people are. Okay, so what happened? Why aren't they being wiped out? Or can we be honest? Should the Nigerian government be honest with us and let us know that we've changed our modus operandi when we're dealing with terrorists?
So let me add to your bewilderment and say that we can even go beyond that. If it was politically expedient to go after these bad guys who are using TikTok, who are using Facebook and other platforms, to display their wealth and to taunt us, they would have been arrested by now. Unfortunately, it's not politically expedient, so for some reasons, they're not going after them. There's an association that I belong to that has members in 158 countries of the world. In the last few weeks, my colleagues in those associations have been asking me the question, do we even have security agencies in Nigeria? Why are they seeing the types? I mean, one asked me that, how possible is it to go into a school and pack 315 students and keep them? He was trying to envisage what, as a professional, envisage what it would take, not only to do that, but then to keep them.
The logistics of it, yes. The logistics of something like that.
Question, and I took time to explain to him how our security has deteriorated to a point where it's possible. So why I brought this up is that it is unfathomable, Keller, that we have allowed this to occur. And it's not because we don't have the capacity. It's just because the impunity, the lack of accountability within the security space has been allowed to fester to a point where even the unimaginable is happening. And unimaginable is herding 300 plus students into the forest and then keeping them for days without any form of response. It took the Americans how many hours to come after one of their citizens that was abducted? It's taken us God knows how long to go after someone who has taken 300 plus of our kids. It is unacceptable, and we must, in very clear terms, say that we can do better.
All right, Dr. Adamu, we do have to go on a short break. Because when we come back, we'll be talking about why this is not being done. If you know that this can be done, and I, a common broadcaster, knows that this can be done, why doesn't our government do that? And then to also get your thoughts on some of the measures being put on by the president right now to challenge this situation. So please, stay with us on Hard Copy. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Hard Copy. If you just joined us, Dr. Kabiru Adamu, who's a security expert, internationally renowned security expert, joins us tonight to talk about the security of our country. Now, before we went on that break, you were talking about all the ways that this can be sorted out. Why do you think it's not being done? Is this the political class again?
Yes, and by the way, I haven't really spoken about the ways to address it. We were looking at specific issues. What we need to do, is to look at it holistically. We have the national security enterprise, Kela. The national security enterprise, in simple terms, is a combination of the institutions that we have, plus the policies, as well as the partnerships that we have for addressing security in the country. So let me quickly look at each and every one of them. Institutions. We have about 42 of such institutions. We have 29 primary ones, and then about 14 associated ones. And just to give you an example, the primary ones will be the military, about the 4 units that we have, Army, Navy, Air Force, and the others. Then you have the intelligence community, about 4 of them. And then you have the others like the police, the immigration, all the paramilitary ones. If you count them, they're up to 29. And then if you go to the associated ones, they're the ones that are either under the Ministry of Justice or under the presidency that are also supporting security. An example would be the NFIU, Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit, the EFCC, name them. So all of them, you put them together, they're about 42. And that's the first part of the national security enterprise. The second one are the instruments that we have for addressing national security. Those instruments would include our council, the National Security Council, National Defense Council, National Police Council, and then you have strategies such as the National Security Strategy, the National Counterterrorism Strategy, and then several others. And then, of course, you have the partnerships. And because we are not self-sufficient in the production of our weaponry, we are dependent on, let's say, the United States. We are dependent on Asian countries. We're also dependent on countries like Russia that are supporting our weapons repository. And then, of course, the partnerships that we have within the sub-region, as well as within the continental level, within the African. So, and then, of course, the national powers, which include us, you, I, and every Nigerian. So how have we been managing this national security enterprise? And Kela, that's the answer to your question. We've not managed the national security enterprise effectively to allow us to manage our security challenges. Just to give you an example, the 3 C's of security, coordination, cooperation, and collaboration, at the moment is missing. There are institutional and structural challenges. If I pick the police as an example, the police has been balkanized to a point where at the moment we're not even sure what policing is in Nigeria. Today we talk about community policing, tomorrow we talk about state policing. Then we now have policing spread across 8 organizations within these 42 that I've mentioned. Nobody is talking how do we harmonize these 8 so that we have some form of policing mechanism that serves our purpose. So this is some of the challenges. I can also talk about the National Security Council that is not being convened, and Kela. Since this administration came to power, that council has only sat down one time. Constitutionally, that council should be sitting at least 3 quarterly. This is the 2 years plus of this administration, and it has only sat down, I think, twice within the period of 2 years that this administration has been in power. By the dictates of the democratic system that we have in place, the National Assembly should have been enforcing or pressuring the executive arm of government to correct some of the deviations that I spoke about. Unfortunately, we're not seeing that. So the legislative instruments that should have been enforced to redirect the executive arm of government are not currently being implemented. Rather, what we see is some form of collaboration between the legislature and the executive. Now, there is nothing wrong with collaboration if what you have is good and is serving our purpose. But we're talking of a situation where we have a national security crisis in our hands. And then we're not seeing the legislature exercising the instruments that are at its disposal, including the bandits, the terrorists. How many of them are there? We know their camps. Their camps have been documented. It's been mapped. How long will it take for the military if the president today declares war on banditry and declares war on terrorism, and then in very clear terms directs in writing the chief of defense staff to submit a plan, a war plan to him? How long would it take for the military to end this thing? It's not going to take
too long. We were hoping, I think that brings us to the next topic, which is some of the moves that have been made by the president in this particular regard. A state of emergency in security. We're still trying to wrap our heads around what that means. Does that mean that we're in a state of emergency as a country? We saw Nuhu Ribadu with that in the United States with the team that are going into the negotiations with the United States government. Is this leading up to some kind of collaboration between us so that these attacks on the terrorist hideouts can happen once and for all? Is that what we're going to see happen next?
So let me start from the last question you asked me. We've had a long history of collaboration with the United States. This collaboration manifests in different forms. It includes, of course, the diplomatic relationship that we have, but then there is a defense and security partnership that we have with the United States, including an intelligence liaison partnership where they are supposed to share intelligence with us. But then, Kela, and this is the meat in the whole brew that you and I are conversing, no country that is worth its onion, that knows what is, will share anything meaningful with us after everything that I've described to you. Because they are not blind, they are here, they have an embassy, their embassy sees what is going on. So I don't mean to, pick holes in what the government has said it has achieved, but we need to look inwards and correct our internal faults. Some of these internal faults would include how in God's name, Kela, even 2025, are we still allowing our security agencies to communicate via GSM? It's unfathomable, and Kela. GSM is as vulnerable a communication system as anything. There is no form of security protection around GSM communication. So sometimes when I hear people say, no, there is sabotage within the system, no, we're sabotaging ourselves because we should have invested in a communication system that is protected. But we've not done that. We communicate via open networks. And then when something goes wrong, we say, oh, there is a fifth columnist. Now, that's not saying that there are no fifth columnists there. It's possible there are fifth columnists. And that brings me to the second point.
I want to talk about that point before we go. So what you're saying to us is, so as much as we keep saying, oh, they are fifth columnists, they are collaborators in the military, that aside, the fact that you're communicating via open network already puts you in a situation where people can hear what your plans are?
It does. It's in security balance, there are two things that are important to this phase of our conversation. What we call technical counter-surveillance measures. In simple terms, the measures you put in place to protect yourself from surveillance by the enemy, as it were. And the enemy could be anyone. Now, in GSM calls, TCSMs, technical counter-surveillance measures, are completely missing. If you are watching war films, you see someone with a pack on his back with an antenna. Mm-hmm. Those are communication channels that are encrypted and protected. Those who studied the Second World War will know the kind of encrypted communication that was used. So GSM communication is as vulnerable as anything.
Why are we still using it? What's the problem? Do we not know?
Fortunately, I'm not a member. I'm not working in government, so I can't answer that question.
Have you advised them? I know that you come up with, I know that Beacon Security comes up with security briefs and trends and things like that. Have you ever talked to them about this? Has this ever come up?
Kela, yes. And I must say that this is probably our smallest problem, honestly. There are problems that are even bigger than this communication issue that we're discussing. But we must, you remember I started this conversation by saying we need to look inwards. and correct. These are little things that we can correct. We have a federal Ministry of Communication, Innovation, and Digital Economy. I think it's high time the president have a meeting with them to ask them to look at our digital space so that they can now recommend to him ways of enhancing the integrity of our digital space.
As we wrap up some of the ideas that the president has come, a cordoning those forests, more recruitments into the police force, the conversation about state police has come up again, the withdrawal of police that are protecting VIPs. Are these steps in the right direction that the president is taking?
They are piecemeal approaches. And
piecemeal?
Most of them, yes, they are piecemeal. Most of them are okay, they are good, but the fact that they are not holistic. If we're going to have a holistic approach, it will be a security sector reform where the president asks for an evaluation of the gaps, some of the gaps that I've identified. And there is a lot that I can't even say because we're in a public space. The president needs that kind of evaluation, all of those gaps, and then he now starts a security sector reform. The time remaining for him, we don't know what will happen after 2027, is very short. So some of these piecemeal approaches are very key. But for me, the number one recommendation that I can, if I can give him, is to institute accountability within the security sector. Each of the 42 agencies that I've mentioned has a mandate. And I think all the president needs to do is to ask for the mandate of each of those 42. And then, luckily, he has this amazing woman, Hajia Hadiza Bala, who is his his aide on policy coordination. He can ask her to come up with key performance indicators, which, by the way, she's already doing, but expand it to meet this specific requirement. And then the president should now ask her to work with the coordinating elements within the security sector to develop clear KPIs, key performance indicators that are measurable within periods of, say, 1 month, so that after every 1 month, the president has a dashboard close to him that he can look and say, okay, immigration, in terms of border protection, the responsibility that we've given to you, all those porous borders that we have, how far have you gone in protecting those porous borders? Now, that is the only way out of this mess that we're in, Kela. And then the president should also be courageous to take action where he sees failure in the security sector.
Okay. Well, Dr. Adamo, we are out of time. I know it's never enough time, but it's an ongoing conversation, and I hope we can have you here again. But I want to thank you very much, Dr. Kabiru Adamu, for making out the time to be with us on Hard Copy, and good luck with all the work I know you have ahead of you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Kela, and same to you.
That's Hard Copy this week. I'm Kayla Megwa. Good night.